Hi guys, so in this video what I'm going to do is show you how to factorize quadratic expressions into double brackets. So we did single brackets last lesson, however this time we're just going to focus on double brackets. So first of all, just like last time, we're just going to remind ourselves of how we do the opposite of factorizing, how we expand double brackets. Now this is slightly different than single brackets in that there's probably quite a few different ways that people in the class do this. So as I've taught it to you before, I've usually used the grid method. However, it's absolutely fine if you guys want to use FOIL or a different method to be able to expand the brackets. Okay, so it's not really the part that involves FOIL or the part that involves the grid. That's the key part of this lesson, or the key thing that's going to help you to understand this. So if I expand this expression, x plus 4 is being multiplied by x plus 5. So all of x plus 4 is being multiplied by all of x plus 5. So I will do x multiplied by x, which gives me x squared. X multiplied by 4, which gives me 4x, x multiplied by 5, which gives me 5x, and 5 multiplied by 4, which will give me 20 there. Now what I had to do is add all of these areas together. So I have x squared plus 4x plus 5x plus 20. And then this line here, I would still have got the same answer if I'd have used FOIL instead. So I could have done the first term multiplied by the first term, so that would have given me x squared, and then the outer term, so x multiplied by 5, which would have given me the 5x, then the inner terms, 4 multiplied by x, which gave me 4x, and then finally the last term, so that would give me 4 times by 5, which gave me 20. So it doesn't really matter how you get to that point, whether you use a grid method, FOIL, or a different method, as long as you have these 4 terms here. And you can see they're all being added, so it doesn't really matter which order they're in. However, when we're at this stage, we know that we can simplify this by collecting together the 4x and the 5x as they're like terms. So 4x plus 5x will give me 9x, and then the x squared and the 20 haven't changed there. They've not been collected with any other like terms, so it will be x squared plus 9x plus 20, and I can't simplify that further because none of these are like terms. Okay, so I'm going to use the same method, and I'm just going to expand the brackets here on the right hand side. So I've got x plus 7 multiplied by x minus 3. Remember, it doesn't really matter whether I put the x plus 7 at the top and the x plus 3 down the side, as it doesn't matter which order I multiply the brackets in. So x times x gives me x squared, x times by minus 3, so just be careful here, x is positive, minus 3 is obviously negative, so minus 3 times x will give me minus 3x, and then x times by 7 will give me 7x, and here again we've got negative 3 multiplied by 7, so that's going to give me a positive, times by a negative will give me a negative, and 3 times 7 is 21, so that will give me minus 21. Then I add all of these together, so that will be x squared, add 7x, add minus 3x, so that's just minus 3x, add minus 21, so that's just minus 21 there. So just like before, I'm at this stage now where I can start to simplify it here. So we know only the x terms here are like terms. So 7x minus 3x will give me 4x. It's positive because I had a positive amount of 7x and I just took away 3 of those, so I'm left with 4x. And the x squared and the 21 don't have any like terms, so it will just stay the same. So when we say factorize a quadratic expression, well then here at the end these are both quadratic expressions. In fact, at the top they're quadratic expressions as well. They just haven't been expanded. Okay, so the aim of today's lesson, or this video, is just to show you how to put this back into the brackets. So how to take the expression that's been expanded, or just an expression like this, and then put it back into the brackets afterwards. So both of these are quadratic expressions, and I just want to have a look at. We know that in a quadratic expression, you're going to have a term in x squared, a term in x, and then a constant here as well. Sometimes you may just have a term in x squared and a constant, or maybe a term in x squared and a term in x, but it makes it quadratic because we have an x squared term here. And the same on this one here, we have an x squared term, a term in x, and then just a constant on the end, so just a number on the end there. So as we said, the aim of today's lesson is to try to factorise this back into the brackets. So what will help us to understand this is if we have a look back at, we want to put this that we had at the bottom here, we want to put that back into the brackets there. So let's start to think about where the numbers came from. The easiest thing to spot is actually the 20 on the end here, because the 20 has stayed the same from the 20 here. And the 20 just came from the 4 times by the 5, which gave me 20. So I know when I put this into brackets, the two numbers multiplied together to make 20. Similarly, now I need to look at where the 9 came from. So if I go backwards, I can see that the 9 came from the 4x, add 5x, which gave me 9x. So the 9x came from 4x, add 5x. So, and we can see here that the 5x was made by x times by 5, and the 4x was made by x times by 4. And then so in the brackets, we had a 5 there and a 4 there. So what happened was they were multiplied. 4 times x gave me 4x, x times 5 gave me 5x, and then I added those two terms together, the 4x and the 5x, because they're like terms, to make the 9x here. So those two numbers in the brackets, the 4 and the 5, added together to give me the coefficient, that's just the number multiplying the x there, to give me the 9 there. So I know that the numbers in the brackets added together to give me 9 and multiplied together to give me 20. What I'll do in future, and I've actually done this in your homework pack as well, is I won't say that they add together to get 9 and times together to get 20. I'll say that they have a sum of 9, that just means they add together to get 9, and they have a product of 20, so the two numbers multiply together to get 20. The same thing has happened over here as well, so we've got a 21 on the end here. This is a negative 21, but that's just because it came from a negative 3 times by a positive 7, and then of course it had no like term, so it's just stayed the same there. So we've got a minus 21 there, so our product there was minus 21 when I multiplied those two numbers together. And then you can see that I've got a positive 4x, and that's just come from the minus 3x plus 7x, or the other way around, 7x, a positive 7x minus 3x, which is going to give me a positive 4x there. So that came from me combining these two terms here, the 7x and the 3x, by adding them together. So I know it says subtract here, but what you could think of it as 7x plus minus 3x, which is the same thing, okay? So it's those two terms added together there. So the 4 here, the positive 4, has come from the 7, take away 3, which gave me the 4. So the two numbers added together to give me 4, the sum is 4, and their product, what they multiplied together to get, was 21. So if I, and I'm just going to do that, but backwards, with these same questions on the next slide now. So now that I know that when I have my quadratic expression like this, then I've got my product at the end. So in the first one here, the product is 20. In the second one, the product is minus 21. And then I've also got the sum as well. So the sum here is 9, and the sum here is 4. So I know that when this goes into brackets, it's going to be, it's going to be in double brackets. And the reason that I know it's double brackets is if I try to put this into single brackets, there's actually, between x squared and 9x and 20, there is no common factor here. So there's nothing that goes into all three terms. There might be, for example, that between x squared and 9x is a factor of x, but it's got to go into all three terms. So that tells me that this has got to be double brackets. So if I'm asked to factorise it, it must go into double brackets. Okay, not all quadratic expressions will factorise, but we'll get to those in a future lesson. So I know that we've got, obviously, that x squared is made by x times x. And it's not always going to be just x squared. We might have 2x squared or 3x squared. But again, that's something we'll deal with a little bit later on. Okay, I just want us dealing with this at the moment. So I know that the two numbers multiply together to get 20, and they add together to get 9. So they multiply together to get 20, and they add together to get 9. Well, there's an infinite amount of numbers that would add together to get 9, but there's only a limited number of factors of 20, so numbers that will multiply together to get 20. So I could list all the factor pairs that make 20. So 1 times 20, 2 times 10, And then we've also got 4 times 5 as well. So now the pair of numbers will have to not only multiply together to get 20, but they'll have to add together to get 9 as well. So 1 add 20 would give me 21, so it's not that one. 2 add 10 would give me 12, so it's not that one. And then 4 add 5 would give me 9, so it is that one, so it's going to be 4 and 5. So I've got 4 and I've got 5. Now, on this question, it's all positive, so that's not going to be concerning. The next question, though, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So I've got x plus 4 multiplied by x plus 5. And if I wanted to, just like I did before, I could expand that bracket and I would get that expression back at the end. So let's have a look at the next one. And this one is slightly more difficult because we've got a negative product instead. But what we can do is we can just look at the factors or the numbers that multiply together to get minus 21. And some people will do this in slightly different ways. I'll just focus on the positive factors of 21 first of all. So 1 times 21 or 3 times by 7. So even though I say the sum here, I know that because they multiply together to give a negative number, so the negative product, which is negative 21, then I know that in the brackets, one of them must be positive and one of them must be negative. So I can't make a negative number by multiplying together 2 positives or 2 negatives, so it must be that one is positive and one is negative. So therefore, I can either make, I need to make 4 by adding together these 2 numbers, okay. So if I add, or remember I could think of it as subtract as well, because if I add a negative number, it's the same as subtracting as well, okay. So, or it's the same as subtracting a positive number. So it could have been, because it's a negative product, it could have been minus 1 times by positive 21 or positive 1 times by minus 21. But neither of these would have a sum of 4. So minus 1 times by 21, sorry, minus 1 add 21 is just going to give me positive 20. And 1 add minus 21 is going to give me minus 20. So it's not going to be that there. So then this could have been minus 3 times 7 to get minus 21, or it could have been 3 times by negative 7 as well. So if I add these two together, so negative 3 add 7 will give me a positive 4, and 3 add negative 7 would have given me a minus 4. So I want a positive 4, so it's going to be these two that I'm going to be selecting. So the 3 needs to be negative and the 7 needs to be positive. Obviously, the x squared comes from x multiplied by x as well. And as I said, while you're still getting the hang of this, it might be useful to just check, expand the brackets, and check that you're left with the expression afterwards, okay? What I will normally think about when I'm doing this is, rather than think of it as a sum, if I know that it's possible that it could be negatives, I could say a sum or difference that would make 4, and that might help me a little bit more as well. So, for example, 3 add 7 might give me 10, or I could look at the difference. It could be 7 minus 3 is 4, or 3 minus 7, which would give me minus 4. So you need to try to make that amount there, so 4, by either adding one and subtracting the other, or the other way around. Okay, so let's have a look at a few examples. This is where I've just got positives. As we've said before in lessons, whenever we have negatives, it's always going to confuse any topic, okay? So let's just focus on the positives so that we know that we understand it. First of all, you may want to pause the video and just have a go, and then just check that you get the same answer as me. Or if you're still not understanding it fully, just have a listen to me do these, and then have a go at the ones that are in the worksheet for you. So if I look at this question here, I've got x squared plus 12x plus 20. So I need to identify what the product is and what the sum is. So the product is 20, and then the sum here is 12. So I might want to write those down. So the product there is 20, and the sum is 12. So as we said before, there's an infinite amount of numbers that would add together to get 12. So if we just focus on the factors of 20, or the factor pairs of 20, so it could be 1 times 20, 2 times by 10, or it could be 4 times by 5, and they also need to have a sum of 12. So the sum of 1 and 20 is 21, and the sum of 4 and 5 is 9, but the sum of 2 and 10 is 12, so that means it's going to be 2 and 10. So in my brackets, I'm just going to have x plus 2 and x plus 10 there as well. So on the next one then, I've got a product of 24 and a sum of 10. So as we said before, we'll focus on, so product of 24 and a sum of 10. We'll focus on the factor pairs of 24, so I could have 1 times 24. I could have 2 times by 12, 3 times by 8, and 4 times by 6. Sometimes if you're told to factorise and you can't find the, or you don't have two numbers that would add together to give the sum, it may be that you're missing some of the factors. So just make sure that you've definitely got all of the factors there. If we're having trouble with that, just let me know and I can do another video on finding factors at some point as well. So we know that they must multiply together to get 24 and have a sum of 10. So look at all the factor pairs and see what their sum is. So the sum of 1 and 24 is 25, so it's not that. The sum of 2 and 12 is going to give me 14, so it's not that. The sum of 3 and 8 is going to give me 11, so it's not that. But the sum of 4 and 6 is 10, so it's going to be that one there. So this one is just going to be x plus 4, bracket x plus 6. Again, we could expand those brackets and just check that we get the answer of x squared plus 10x plus 24. Just to check our answer if we want to while we're learning it at the moment. The next type I'm just going to have a look at is when we have a negative product. So here the product is negative 14 and here the product is negative 35. Okay, so we know that if two numbers have a negative product, so just recall from before that if I multiply a positive number by a positive number, it would give me a positive answer. If I multiply a positive number by a negative number, it would give me a negative answer. So because it doesn't matter which order I multiply, and if it was a negative multiplied by a positive, that would also be negative. And then if I multiply a negative by a negative, it's going to give me a positive. So if I can see that there's a negative product, it must be these two give a negative product here. So it must be that one of the numbers is negative and one of the numbers is positive. So when I'm doing this, well, first of all, as we said before, we can for a moment ignore the fact that it's negative 14 and just look at the factors of 14. So we have 1 times 14 and then we also have 2 times 7. There are no more factor pairs for 14. Okay, so I'm looking at here how I could make positive 5. So I know that one of these must be positive and one of these must be negative. So it's possible that it was minus 1 and positive 14, or it could have been positive 1 and negative 14. Or it's also possible it could have been minus 2 and positive 7, or positive 2 and negative 7 as well. So if we look at the sums here, well, minus 1 add 14 is going to give me positive 13, so it's not that. Minus 1 add minus 14 is negative 13, so it's not that there. Minus 2 add 7 gives me a positive 5, so it looks like it's that one there. And I could just say that 2 add minus 7 is going to give me minus 5, so it's not that one there. Okay, so I know that it's going to be a negative 2 and a positive 7. The x squared comes from x multiplied by x, and I'll just have a negative 2 and a positive 7. Now, when you look at the answers, you might think, oh, I have the wrong answer because I've put x plus 7, x minus 2. Here, remember that all of this bracket, all of the first bracket is multiplying all of the second bracket. Because both brackets are being multiplied by each other, these are both the same answer. Okay, it doesn't matter which way around they are. Remember, we know multiplication is commutative. That means it doesn't matter which order you multiply in. So the first bracket multiplied by the second bracket is the same as it being multiplied this way. So x minus 2 multiplied by x plus 7 is the same as x plus 7 multiplied by x minus 2. If you're feeling confident with that, then have a go at the one below and pause the video and just check back after I've explained it to see that you've got it right. So if we look at this one here, again, we've got a product which is negative. So our product is negative 35. Let's look at the factors of 35 first of all. So we just have 1 multiplied by 35 and 5 times by 7. Those are the only two factor pairs that we've got for 35. So again, we know it's negative, and we know that we're looking for a sum of negative 2. So it could be that it was minus 1 and positive 35, or positive 1 and negative 35, or again the same here, it could have been a positive 5 and a negative 7, or a -5 and a +7. So whichever pair it was would have made -2 when we add them together. So I can pretty much disregard these straight away. I know that they're not going to give me -2, okay. So then 5 add -7 gives me -2, so it's this pair here, okay. If I looked at this one, -5 add 7 would give me a +2, so it's not going to be that there. So therefore I know it's going to be x plus 5 and x minus 7. And it could be as well, we said that it would be the same to have x minus 7, x plus 5. So both of those are entirely fine. The last case really is where we have a negative sum and a positive product. So let's say, for example, I have x squared, let's say minus 8x plus 12. So if I have something like this, remember that the product is positive 12 and the sum is negative 8. So again, we'll focus just on the product first of all. So what could have given me 12? So let's think we could have had 1 times 12, we could have 2 times 6, or we could have had 3 times 4. So when I'm looking at those, it's going to add together to give me a negative 8. Remember, if the product is positive, if we recall from the last slide that if I had a positive times positive gives me a positive, positive times negative was negative, negative times positive was negative, and then a negative times a negative was a positive. So the only way of having a positive product was either a positive times positive or a negative times negative. So the signs must be the same, both positive or both negative. Now, if I have a sum of negative 8, I can't add together two positive numbers and get a negative number. If I add together two positive numbers, I'm just going to get a bigger positive number. So it must be, if you have a negative sum and a positive product, it must be that both of the numbers there are negative. So it could be -1 and -12, -2 and -6, or -3 and -4. So if we look at the sums here, -1 add -12 would be -13, so it's not that. -2 add -6, that's going to give me -8, so it looks like it's that. I could just double check, -3 add -4 would give me -7. So it's these two here, so it's just going to be x minus 2 and x minus 6. Let's just do one more that's a little bit similar to that then. So if I had x squared, let's say minus 13x plus 42. So here I have a positive product and I have a negative sum. So if I look at all of the factors of 42 first of all, so I've got 1 times 42, it's even, so 2 is a factor, so 2 times 21. This might be a number that's a little bit harder to find factors for. I could get 3 times by 14, and I could get 4 doesn't go into 42, so I can't have 4, and then I have 6 times by 7. So if I look at these again, we know it's a positive product, so they're either both positive or both negative, but because the sum is negative, both of these must be negative. So we're looking for a sum of -13, so -1, add -42, it's negative 43. That would give me negative 23, and this would give me negative 17. This here would give me negative 13, so it's these two numbers there. So it's just going to be x minus 6 and x minus 7. Remember, again, we said that the brackets could be in the other order. Because they're being multiplied, it doesn't matter. Okay, so there will be a mixed section in your homework where sometimes it's going to be a positive sum and a positive product. Sometimes it might be a negative sum and a positive product, or a positive product and a negative sum, or vice versa. So I'd like you to work through that, and please just let me know and show my homework if there are any problems. Okay, have a good day. Bye-bye.